Sheila Walsh is a best-selling author, celebrated Bible teacher, Grammy-nominated recording artist, and popular television host. She joins us now to talk about her new book, The Gifts of Christmas, and how God can turn our weariness to wonder and our heartache to hope this holiday season. Welcome back to 100 Huntley Street, Sheila.
It's so lovely to be here, and look at the studio.
This is just
gorgeous.
For you.
A little early, but it's gorgeous.
You and Jesus as we celebrate this beautiful time of year. You know, Sheila, The Gifts of Christmas is an incredible devotional, and I've read it. My heart is ready for Christmas. I'm moving towards Christmas. But of course, you can read it from December 1st to December 25th. And what I was really touched by were all of the personal stories you share of your own experiences of Christmas, plus, some unpacking of Christmas traditions like Christmas trees and candy canes, and the biblical insights you share around the birth of Christ, and tying it all together to bring readers hope and peace and the joy that only God can bring. In the book, you talk about when you were little, you had such a wonder about Christmas, and a lot of us do, but we get older and we lose the wonder. Why do you think that happens?
I think we allow all the other stuff that surrounds Christmas to be overwhelming. We buying presents, the food, the everything, it can get overwhelming. We overspend, because we think there's something about it. It's like, to me, unless I have a tin of Quality Street in the house, it's not Christmas yet. There's just certain things you have to have. But I think that we forget that it's the turning point of all human history. From that moment when that little baby was born in Bethlehem, it's like fresh sheet of paper. Because you think about it, there's been 400 years of silence. You read through all the Old Testament and all the prophets talking and bringing, messages from God, and then 400 years of silence. And the people are still looking and waiting for Messiah. And then suddenly there's this newborn baby and everything changes. And if we lose the wonder of that, we've really lost what Christmas is all about.
That's so good. And you forget about that 400-year gap where the people of Israel heard nothing.
Yeah.
And yet there was this promise there would be a Messiah. And you're right, now we live in a season where we're waiting for the return of Christ. We're living in a season of promise.
Yeah.
But it's so important, and you talk about this in your book, to not necessarily have these expectations, especially around the holidays and life in general, but to live with expectancy.
Yeah.
That really hit me, and I'm just wondering if you can unpack that a bit more for us.
Yeah, that's huge for me at the moment. When I look, if you read in Matthew's Gospel, around about chapters 24 and 25, it's this discussion Jesus has with his closest friends. We call it the Olivet Discourse. It's when they've left Jerusalem. They're all pointing out the buildings like, Lord, look at the temple. Any thoughts of you coming and just ruling and reigning now? And Jesus takes them aside and they sit down on the Mount of Olives. And I was just there a few months ago and sitting there on the Mount of Olives, just imagining what that was like. And Jesus is telling them about things that are going to happen. And there's two parables in particular that just arrest me. One is the parable of 10 virgins with their oil lamps. 5 of them are expecting that at any minute the bridegroom will come. So they have more than enough oil. And 5 others are like, well, it's been a while, so, I think we're good for another, couple of months. And they're not ready. And so when the bridegroom does come, they're not ready, they can't go in. So that says to me, even in this season, we should always be looking up. Expecting this could be the moment when Christ returns. And the other parable he tells is the master who gives one servant 10 bags of gold or silver, depending on what translation you use, 1 5 and 1 1. And the one with 10, uses them wisely and ends up doubling it. The one with 5 doubles it. The one with 1 thinks, well, you didn't give me much. I'll just bury it. And when the master comes back and he rewards, and interestingly enough, he says to the one with 10 that's made 20 and the one with 5 that's made 10, he says exactly the same. You've done so well. We are going to celebrate. He doesn't say to the one with 5, well, that wasn't quite as good as this guy, but still, nice job. Exactly the same. So what that says to me is whatever God has put in every one of us, we should be using everything at the moment for because He's coming back soon. And to me, that's what living with expectancy is. It's like, any minute now, nothing has to happen. I mean, everything's in place before the Lord returns. And so for me, this Christmas season, But then when Christmas is over, I'm going to live with expectancy in January and February, because one of these days, the Lord is coming back and we be going home.
And there is so much to look forward to, because home is a place where all things are restored and redeemed and made perfect. And it's the life we were promised in Eden that didn't really, turn out thanks to us. But
Yep.
yeah. You said, like, even after Christmas, we're to live in this expectancy year round. And something in your devotional, The Gifts of Christmas, I love that you actually have had Christmas trees up since 2020. I thought that was amazing, because it's that reminder, live with expectancy. The gift of God in Jesus has come, and he's coming again. But tell us a little bit more about why you left the Christmas trees up and what that means for you.
2020 was so difficult for everybody. I mean, I had a whole year of events canceled, as, everybody had stuff. I mean, my hair's long because I couldn't go get my hair cut anymore. I used to have short hair. Everything changed. And for some reason, my husband and I, we were just reluctant to take the tree down, because every morning I would get up and I'll let my little dog Maggie out, and I'll put the coffee on, and I put the Christmas tree lights on. And when friends come to the house, like in June, it's like, can I just explain something before you come into the house? But we just left them up. And there's something about, I think it's comfort, it's cheer, but it's this reminder, because at the top of our tree, the main one in the den, because we have 3 trees up.
I love it. I want to come visit.
You're welcome anytime. But it's this, we have a cross at the top of the tree, and it's this reminder that it wasn't just, it's not just about celebrating the fact that we all eat too much and spend too much. It's about this moment changed everything for everybody. And so the tree's a kind of reminder of that. Yeah. And also, I loved finding out about the very first, like, where did Christmas trees? How did that happen? And realizing it was actually back in the 16th century with Martin Luther. He's coming home one night and it's cold and it's snowy, and the snow has fallen on all of the trees. And the way the moon is shining that night, they're sparkling. And I think something about it, because having read a lot about Martin Luther, he doesn't seem like he's like a big party animal.
Right.
He's kind of...
or a big, feeler.
He's kind of a chill dude. But something about the wonder of that caught his attention. And he cut down a tree and he took it home, and they put little candles on it. And I love that there's just these little moments all around. I mean, every day. In fact, I did it today before I came in here. I always pray, God, give me eyes to see what I would miss today without you. Because God is speaking all the time. And I think that's what happened with Martin Luther. It was like God spoke to him in that moment. So look for the moments where God is speaking.
And he is speaking in so many ways. If you're looking and your heart is open, living with expectancy. I love that story about Martin Luther, and you have that in the devotional here. I loved it. I loved also how you referenced that, God is, in the Bible, referenced as an evergreen tree, right? Always full of life, always. And that's in Hosea.
Yeah.
I think you put that in there. When we think about these seasons in our life where we are perhaps struggling due to unforeseen circumstances, right? So maybe somebody's struggling with ill health or the loss of a loved one, or financially, or maybe transitions in their life. And there is this season of waiting. The season of waiting the Israelites experienced, waiting for Jesus. The season we're waiting for as we wait for Jesus to return. How can someone who is struggling, though, a lot, really root themselves in the hope of Christ and really press in there?
Yeah, that's a great question, because so many people are hurting right now.
Yeah.
Even when I was flying in, I found myself sitting beside somebody who's very broken, very hurt. Army veteran from Canada, served 2 tours in Afghanistan, but marked by the harshness of life. And we talked for the whole flight about how hard it is sometimes to believe in a God who is good and powerful in a world of suffering. How do you reconcile those 2 things? And for me, it's understanding this was never God's original plan. I mean, you touched on that. Eden was God's original plan, where there was they walked and talked with God in the evening of the day. And now I think we have to be so intentional about remaining in the presence of Christ. And the thing that I love is you get to be all of who you are. You don't have, if somebody is watching and they're they've gone through a great loss, or they're lonely, or they're hurting, or they're struggling. Or maybe they have a diagnosis like I do. I have a diagnosis of severe clinical depression, which I take medication for. But I talk about all of it in the presence of the Lord. You know, I don't, and that's what Jesus did on the night when he was about to be crucified. When he's in the garden, he processes his pain in the presence of his Father. And sometimes we are afraid to be all of who we are. But you get to tell God the truth. If you're angry, tell God you're angry. If you're sad, tell God you're sad. Know that you can bury your head, your face in the mane of the Lion of Judah.
That's so meaningful, Sheila. And it just really strikes me. I'm sure it's striking our viewers. And that's the truth about who God is. He just wants us to be honest.
Yeah.
It was something that struck me as I read your devotional was your honesty. Like, I really was like, she's so honest.
I'm at that age now, you know. You get to a certain age where you're like, well, let's just tell the truth here, people.
That's right. That's good. You know, it's neat, though, too, is we're honest with God and we pour out what's happening and what we're experiencing. He fills us up in a new way.
Yeah.
And what I thought was really interesting was, you know, in the devotional, you talk about the story of Jesus. And when you tie so many points of that story together, you see this great humility over it. So, you know, it's an unwed virgin and, you know, Jesus is born in a humble circumstance. You point out that it might even have been a cave and not a manger. The town of Bethlehem is very humble. Jesus' lineage, even written in the New Testament, is very humble because there's a lot of people mixed in there. And through that process of seeing God brought the Messiah into our world through a humble story. Yeah. What does that say about how God can use us?
And the other thing I love is that the announcement, the great announcement, is made to the shepherds. You know, we tend to think of shepherds because we have nice pictures of shepherds carrying their sheep and everybody's clean and it's a nice setting. That's not the way it was. I mean, shepherds were very despised in that community. Even if shepherds had to go through town for something, merchants would throw fruit at them. I mean, they were looked on as, whoa, don't come near me, you're a shepherd. In fact, if you go way back to Genesis, to the story of Joseph, when his brothers who betrayed him, who've trafficked him to Egypt, when they realize he's the guy in charge and we're in trouble here because we were the ones who sold him, they want to be able to keep doing what they're doing, looking after their animals, but they don't know how to ask. And Joseph says, listen, here's the deal. We're just going to tell Pharaoh, you're shepherds. If we tell him you're shepherds, you'll be on the outskirts of town, you'll be left in peace. So it was recognized by everyone. This is the least of the least. These are the outcasts. And God said, I choose you. And so I just think that to everyone. Yeah. You know, if you're like, after my father's death by suicide, we were the poor kids in school. We were the ones who had to get free school meals and free school uniforms. So, and God says, you know what? I'll choose you. You're the least likely. And when I graduated from high school, somebody wrote in my yearbook, least likely to do anything. and in some ways it was so true because I walked in my sleep till I was 18 years old. I had nightmares. I mean, I'm not the kind of person you would think, oh, let's choose her. This will work out well. God loves to choose the least likely, so it's clear to everybody, this is God.
It's so amazing. And, you know, you're right, Sheila, because when you look at your life, too, it's like a Grammy-nominated recording artist and all the books you've written and the way God has entrusted you with so many things. And yet you're humbly saying, God, okay, if you want to use me, use me. And I think that's what our viewers can take from this, too. You know, God can use them in all different ways. It doesn't matter where you find yourself or what you've done or what's being done to you. If you pour yourself out and say, God, here I am.
Yeah. Because when Paul talked about holding this treasure in earthen vessels, he wrote that to the people in Corinth. Corinth was a big seaport and stuff was transported in earthen vessels. So it was like the UPS of the day. Paul was saying, listen, you're just a cardboard box. Yeah. Don't worry about it. It's what's in the box that matters. Christ is the treasure in the box. And I think it's one of God's greatest. We're like God's secret agents, God's boots on the ground, because nobody expects that much. Yeah. But when you're trusting, you know, God, you are sovereign, you're great, you are incredible, and I give myself to you. Yeah. And God loves to use people who are fully surrendered, not the most gifted, the most gung-ho.
Yes. And that full surrender begins when we give our hearts or we receive the greatest gift of all.
Yes.
And so our viewers who are watching right now and perhaps saying, you know, my Christmases past have not been good. I don't know what my Christmas future holds. but I do know I want to receive this gift because there's that gift under the tree for all of us, the gift of Jesus. What would you say to them?
Well, honestly, what I would say would be one of my best Christmas memories was I was expecting this baby doll, and I came down and it wasn't there. All my presents were on the chair, but it wasn't there. And I'm like, ugh. And then my mom said, Sheila, are you not going to open your best gift? And I'm like, well, what gift? And she said, it's at your feet. And I looked down, and there was the baby doll. Sometimes you miss what's right at your feet. And I don't know what past Christmases have been like for you. I don't know how many of you are dreading this Christmas because maybe you've lost someone, and you're like, I don't want to walk through this. I want you to know that the God of the universe loved you so much, he didn't want to live without you. And that's what happened on that first Christmas. That Jesus, he wasn't born in a palace with big announcements. He was born to a very humble young teenage couple. And it's because he loves us so much. And what changed my life was saying to God, look, I'm not much, but if you will take me, I want to be yours. And you know, the scripture says, in the book of Romans, it says, whoever calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Not if you're a good person, not if you've never cursed or you don't smoke, none of that stuff. Whoever calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. This Christmas could be the best Christmas of your life. You simply say, okay, Jesus, here I am. You came to the shepherds and nobody thought they were up to much. So will you come and be born in me? Changes everything.
It changes everything. And unless you've experienced it, Sheila, you don't quite understand it. So the idea is to experience it because the love you feel and the difference inside changes everything. Well, the Gifts of Christmas has been an incredible devotional for me already, and I can't wait to journey through it again as we move into Christmas further. Sheila, everything you've said today has been so meaningful for so many of us listening, and the reminder that the greatest gift of all is Jesus, and he changes everything. It has been such a powerful part of this conversation. Thank you, Sheila.
You are just darling.
Well, you know, if you or someone you love is feeling weary or hopeless this holiday season, can I tell you that it is time to recapture the wonder-filled gifts of Christmas? Find fresh hope in the greatest gift of all, Jesus. And no, this Christmas might not be what you expect. It might not be your favorite Christmas yet, but either way, isn't it good to know that God is with you in every moment? And whether you need to surrender or celebrate, he is with you, waiting to journey with you through this Christmas. Well, The Gifts of Christmas by Sheila Walsh is a one-of-a-kind Advent devotional that will lead you through from December 1st to December 25th, reminding you that you are on a journey with God to receive and give the greatest gift of all. To get your copy of Sheila's new book, call 1-800-265-3100 or go to crossroads.ca/gifts.